House Speaker Greg Fergus this morning taking questions from CTV's Rachel Haynes after several Tory MPs called for his resignation following the expulsion of Pierre Poilievre from the House yesterday. The Speaker kicked Poilievre out for calling the Prime Minister wacko and not retracting that comment. He did retract it, but replaced it with something else, and that continued over and over. It led to a very heated debate marked by personal attacks. Have a listen to just a snippet of it.
Does not deserve elected office.
Practicing racist,
Shameful, spineless leadership.
wacko Prime Minister.
Okay, so today couldn't have been any more different. A totally different tone. The conduct of everyone in the House. Have a listen to that.
Given the new, more reasonable tone of the Leader of the Opposition, I wonder if he might take this opportunity to reassure Canadians that he does not support extremist white nationalist organizations like Diagalong, nor wants their votes.
That is false. And furthermore, there are 6 people dying every day in British Columbia. Will he announce today that he has changed his mind and reversed legalization of hard drugs? Yes or no?
So what changed? Let's talk about that with the front bench. Saeed Selvam is the Vice President and Practice Lead of Public Affairs at National Public Relations. Former Alberta MLA and Cabinet Minister Gary Marr is with us. He's the President and CEO of the Canada West Foundation. Former interim NDP National Director Carl Bélanger is with us. He's now the President of Traction Strategies. And rounding us out this evening, Laura Stone is a Queen's Park reporter for the Globe and Mail. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Carl, I'll start with you. What changed? What do you anticipate happened behind the scenes to lead to, like, a complete 180 today?
Well, nobody looked good yesterday is what happened, and I think people realize that. And even though you made your point and maybe you set the trap for the Speaker or you wanted to emphasize the fact that he is a Liberal partisan, at the end of the day, you're the one who got kicked out. And so it didn't really work out the way it should have or could have for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. Meanwhile, I think Greg Fergus is in a situation where he still doesn't have full control of the House. He still has 2 of the main 4 parties saying he should resign. And so is that sustainable? I think you will see more of this skirmish in the way forward because, the 2 parties don't trust him. They don't trust his judgment. And you can't blame them, can you?
My sense, Laura, is that the Conservatives see far less political utility in going after the Speaker and sort of talking about the events and the tone of yesterday than they do on focusing on drug policy, where they do see a ton of political utility.
Yeah, I think there was a realization from Pierre Poilievre and his team that it's not a winning issue for them to be fighting with Greg Fergus, the Speaker of the House, as opposed to speaking about, as you mentioned, Vassy, about a drug policy that the NDP government in BC is trying to scale back. I think they see that as far more kind of important, first of all, and beneficial to them for expanding their vote. I mean, they sent out their fundraising email. They have their tweet from Pierre Poilievre, and the Liberals did the same yesterday, trying to kind of capitalize on the conflict that happened in the House of Commons. They've reached their base and supporters. This isn't really a way to expand that, and I don't think it would resonate for Canadians as much as what's happening in British Columbia is. So I think there was a recognition on behalf of the Conservatives to not make it about them and Pierre Poilievre and to make it more about the policy today. I think it was interesting that the Liberals seemed a bit more ready to go on this issue again. You saw a few friendly questions from backbenchers on the issue of Pierre Poilievre meeting with extremists, trying to get him to condemn Diagalon again. Obviously, Pierre Poilievre recognizes too that speaking about that issue is not beneficial to him at all. So I think it was a turn, certainly from the Conservative side of not being goaded into this fight yet again.
Yeah, the Liberals seemed almost a little surprised at the start of question period that was the tone. Gary, you spent years in Alberta's legislature. I was told by a lot of pundits today that it's a different time and that ultimately Canadians they don't think as turned off by the kind of back and forth that we saw yesterday in the House, because so much of it is about the clip and what happens on social media. Do you think that's true, or do you think Canadians are impacted or do form their views or their support for politicians based on that kind of the kind of thing that we saw yesterday?
Well, I'm here in Vancouver at the studio today, and I think that people in Vancouver that I talk to have clearly said we would rather people focus in our parliament on solving a problem rather than just simply winning an argument. And social media has definitely created a different tone for how politicians address each other. It's never been the case where being a legislator is participating in something as urbane as a garden tea party with polite language and little pinky fingers sticking up from your teacup. But on the other hand, I think Canadians would want people to focus on the policy issues, not the schoolyard name calling that we've seen. And it costs money. I mean, it costs a lot of money for running our parliament when it sits, when it's in the House. And I think my sense of talking to people in Vancouver, just take a walk down East Hastings Street and see what this policy has done. And Premier Eby of the province of British Columbia has characterized it as a health issue. Pierre Poilievre has characterized it partly as a criminal issue. The reality is it's both. And we need to have public policy that is much more complex than can be expressed in a single liner or in a tweet or in a TikTok video. I think it's really important to note that the issue is a real one. When Pierre Poilievre talks about 6 people dying a day here in Vancouver, I mean, I'd invite people to come to, Vancouver General Hospital here in Vancouver and see what's going on in our hospital, see what's going on in the streets. And it's not just the Lower Mainland. You can go to smaller communities in places like Fort St. John or Dawson Creek, and I've been there. And the local municipal firefighters will say, we are overwhelmed with trying to deal with people that, have overdosed on drugs, and a lot of them have migrated from other provinces. So this is a really good sort of case study on why Toronto shouldn't try and follow this same kind of policy.
Well, that's certainly, I think, where the political debate on the issue is headed, whether the feds, Saeed, will allow Toronto to decriminalize in certain fashion or won't, as lots of federal conservatives are pushing them not to. Your take on why everything changed so dramatically as far as the tone went today?
Yeah, look, I agree with a lot of what's been said. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not something that Pierre wanted to rest his hat on. It's not a political hill he wanted to die on either. At the end of the day, he does more for his party and his constituents if he's in the House and taking part in question period. He's able to get across his questions, he's able to ask questions, and he's able to get airtime as well, which is important given the uphill battle that he still has to climb. So I think that at the end of the day, when it comes to why he was more subdued, especially given the comments that he made afterwards, where he said that he didn't necessarily apologize or regret the comments that he made. I think that he just knows that he has to sort of shift the conversation to a place that would be more valuable for him and the party going forward.